Welcome to this episode of the Connecting Faith to Life podcast. I'm Trey Rhodes, a Connections pastor at Northwood Baptist Church here in North Charleston, South Carolina. In just a few moments, our lead pastor, Dr. Tommy and Trey, will join the conversation as well. In our crazy and chaotic world, our hope is that these few minutes will help you stop and reflect on your relationship with Jesus as you learn to connect Christ-centered faith to your everyday life. This is episode 173 of the Connecting Faith to Life podcast, and we are in a new studio, so if it sounds a little different, just chillax. We're going to figure this whole thing out, but anyway.
I have to tell you that a lot, don't I, Pops? Chillax.
Chillax.
Yeah.
Chillaxing
the older
is
you
good.
Get, the
more wound up you get.
Yeah, and chillax is a good word for you, Pops. You're pretty chillax for an old man. It sometimes depends. You have your moments for sure.
Oh, you've heard my moments. Yet you still...
Well, you've heard my
We're still friends. Hard to believe it. But anyway.
Right.
Anyways, you listen to the podcast today. Just take a few minutes to go and remind someone to listen. Post to Facebook, Twitter, call them on the phone, text them, whatever it takes. We want to help them be able to take the Word of God and connect it to their everyday life. And a big part of that is when we go to the ends of the earth as a church through the people that God has brought to our church and missionaries that we know all around the world. And there is no greater, I feel, way that we can show that we really believe what Christ has done for us by going to the ends of the earth. So,
that's right.
Pastor, that's what we're here today to talk about.
Okay, so we've got with us today our crew that just got back from Indonesia. So if you're part of the Northwood family, you know that a few weeks ago we sent out a team to Indonesia, and the three men that went, Pastor Logan is here, and then also Joshua and Andy are here with us. So guys, how you doing? Logan, you all right? It's been a while.
Yeah, it has been a while. I thought I was never coming back on. I'm glad to be back.
And every time we have you on, I always say you're never coming back on, but you find yourself back on here again. I'm glad you're back.
Me too.
And so you took these two. Why don't you tell us a little about these two men that you took with us? Because these two men, this was a big deal for them.
Yeah, it really was a big deal. This was both of their first international mission trip.
Yeah.
This was Andy's first time on an airplane.
Wow.
Andy, first time on an airplane. Tell us about that real quick. What was it like flying for the very first time?
So we had a 3-hour flight at first, and I was like, man, this is going to be easy. And then just Logan and Josh just smiled because we had a 14-hour flight right after that. But it was fun. I really enjoyed it. And
you didn't use the air sick bag on the plane?
No, I debated it the first time. It was a little shaky that first liftoff. But after that, it was all
That's
good.
a pretty weird sensation for the first time, isn't it?
It is. Like you feel weightless, and at the same time, you're like, where did gravity go? You know, it's very strange.
It's like you're in space, isn't it? Like
kind of.
Yep.
I'm sorry, Logan. Why don't you continue to tell us about the journey here?
So yeah, first international mission trip, and this was a big one.
Yeah,
I mean,
huge.
just by nature of the travel to get to Indonesia, that's a lot to ask somebody to do. And then Indonesia is just a vastly different culture, and so Josh is serving in a residency with us at Northwood, and he's done an awesome job so far this year.
And Andy's serving with our students. He's in our school of ministry. Well, they're both in our school of ministry, so both of them are very committed to the work here at Northwood and serving in a lot of ways.
Yeah, and so it's been fun getting to know them this past semester just through doing classes with them and getting to hang out. And then so it was a really neat experience for me just to get to see two guys for the very first time experience international missions.
That is really cool. And two guys who'd never been on an international mission trip, but both are feeling a call towards vocational international missions. So never been, but both feel like, hey, this is where we need to go. Like not just on this short-term trip, but like live our lives in a different part of the world for the sake of the gospel.
For sure. And that was different for me, honestly. I mean, most teams we take, it's church members who they work here and live here, and they're probably not going overseas for their entire lives or to go live full time. So it was neat for me to see that through their lens, to get to relive some of the experiences of just being on the field for the first time. We had a lot of fun. Yeah. I mean, we got sick, but outside of that, like the trip was just fun. It's fun.
You
just
almost
getting to hang
died.
out.
It was that bad.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Yeah.
So, but you know how it is. Just sitting in airports or driving from one city to the next, you get to have a lot of good conversations. You get to know each other, and honestly, it builds a bond.
Yeah, absolutely.
One of my favorite things to do with brothers and sisters in the faith is just go serve on mission together. It's one of the very best things.
There's nothing like it. There's nothing like it.
I had a fantastic time getting to know them better, and hopefully it was a helpful trip for them.
So I want to ask you guys a lot of questions. Before I ask you, Joshua and Andy, a lot of questions, Logan, kind of tell us, I know that people in our faith family, they probably know, maybe they don't know though. Why Indonesia? Why? Well, this is the second time we've gone to Indonesia. Why are we going to Indonesia? Because we'll go back again to Indonesia, Lord willing. Why?
Yeah, so back in 2019, we were looking for new partnerships and what that was going to look like for us to serve internationally. Adam Winters is an International Mission Board missionary. He and his family have been serving in Indonesia for 17 years now. So I mean, you think about he's probably one of the longest tenured missionaries on the field.
Yeah.
There's just most people leave after 3 years, and so he has a ton of experience. Jared Winters is our worship minister, and that's his brother.
Yeah.
And so it was just really a natural connection for us. We went in 2019 for the first time, and it was a really good experience, but then COVID happened, and it shut the world down.
Shut everything down.
This was really the first time that we've been able to get back on that side of the world. And it's just a natural connection. I mean, it's a tough trip to get over there, but once you're there, the ministry is really good.
Yeah.
You're able to have tons of gospel conversations. Everyone is open to talk to you, to hear from you. Life really isn't that much different, especially in the city that they're living in. It's relatively developed, and so in a lot of ways it feels like normal. I mean, it's a different part of the world, and so there's cultural differences, but it's just neat. I mean, it's neat to see Adam and his family. They're just living there. Like his kids were born there. That's home for them.
Yeah.
They homeschool there. They go to church there. Like they live a fairly
That's their
normal
life.
Yeah. And so I think it's a good partnership for us, especially with what they're trying to accomplish. They are very heavy on sharing the gospel, making disciples, seeing disciples that make disciples. They want to help national believers really do the work of the ministry, and they're there to help foster that. And so I think that's something that we can plug in with really well to assist in. It's an unreached part of the world. There's plenty of people groups in Indonesia that have no access to the gospel right now, or very few believers in their people groups. And so that's part of just our vision as a church. We want to be involved in that in some capacity.
Right, absolutely.
So that provides us a very natural way into that. And I think it really will be a good and healthy partnership down the road.
Absolutely. So obviously, Logan's been on a few international trips before. I've been on a few international trips. Pops has been on a few trips before. Pops lived overseas and in Africa when he first started ministry with his wife, Kelly.
Yeah, and we actually, the first time we ever flew on an airplane.
Oh, so that was your first time?
To Swaziland.
Well, there you go.
And never been on the mission field before.
See, there you go.
So y'all are ahead of me.
Yeah, that's right. So, but I want to ask you two guys, okay? So Logan got you there. You spent 45 million hours on the airplane getting there, but you finally got there. And so you get there, you meet Adam and his family, you start to get settled, you start to see your surroundings a bit, and this is your first international mission trip. What were your first impressions when you got to Indonesia? What was going through your mind when you got there? As you start to see some things, and what was going through your head?
Yeah, so it was really a great experience. And then just from getting off the plane and just experiencing a different culture. I mean, when you're on the road, people are driving on the left side of the road. And I mean, that's different. And we initially went to Jakarta, and Jakarta is about like 1/4 the size of Atlanta, but it's about 7 or 8 times more densely populated. So just a lot more people. People are just sitting on the street. And just from talking to those people, and it was amazing how much the culture was different between here and over in Indonesia, because people are just a lot more relational, a lot more communal. Like you can go up to a stranger and talk to them for 3 hours, and that's all right. And just having a spiritual conversation is literally like talking about the weather. So it was neat to be able to see that different in culture.
Yeah. About you, Andy? First impressions when you got on the ground?
I think the biggest thing for me was, as soon as we got off the plane, like the language, right? Me as an English speaker and not knowing any other language, like recognizing.
And all you're hearing is another language. Right. That's a wild sensation,
and
isn't it?
Like, and that they're speaking proper, like it's making sense to them, but like for you, it just sounds, it has there's no comprehension. And so just realizing like, wow, like if Adam just like drops out for any reason, like we're going to have a fun time trying to get back. But I think, just the importance of language. And we got got to see that throughout the course of the week, right? Just Adam being able to speak to people in Indonesian or in Javanese, like it meant so much to those people. And I think that's such a big thing for missionaries when they learn the language, because that's a huge portion, right? It shows that you care enough about their culture to bridge that gap.
Yeah, I remember my first mission trip was to Russia, and Russia kind of like it's a hard language, but just I remember the people there just being so appreciative if you tried, right? If you said a few words the best you could, they were just appreciative that you tried to speak in their language. That's a big deal. So just give us an idea. What did the trip look like from day to day? What all did y'all do?
Yeah, so a lot of the trip was literally just going out and sharing the gospel with people that were there.
So we say share the gospel. How are people to understand? You're in a highly Muslim context. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so 90% of the people that are there are Muslim. So, it's weird because, you hear the call to prayer like 5 times a day. And so that's different. But we were literally just, a lot of it was traveling just to different places. Like one place was just this beach on the Indian Ocean. And we just got to just talk to 3 of these guys, and they don't know who Jesus is, never heard the gospel before, and we just went up to them and talked to them and shared. And that was awesome. So it really was just being able to experience what Adam, the IMB missionary, does on a day-to-day basis, which is just to share, disciple the people that are there, and just start churches.
Yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
I think the coolest part about this trip for us was that, so Adam knew that we were 2 young guys that really wanted to get on the field. We felt that call. And so Adam had planned it to where it wasn't necessarily like we were in one place sharing the gospel with one specific group. It was, we got to be in the city. We got to be in the rural areas. We got to be way out in the middle of nowhere. We got to go see an unreached people group. We got to go hike on a mountain, and just the different ways that you can share the gospel in different contexts to show us like there's multiple ways to be able to share the gospel in a different culture.
Yeah. So tell me about, you obviously had the opportunity to share the gospel with a lot of different people. We'll come back to that in a moment. But what about believers there? Did y'all interact with many believers?
We did interact with a few believers, and kind of what Logan was saying this morning is that they really do feel that responsibility of being in an area where majority of them are not Christians, and it's cool to see how much that they actually just take on their faith. I had one guy that helped translate the whole entire New Testament of the Bible, and how much more boldly that they have to go be. So it was neat to be able to be there, encourage them. So it's cool to see how God is working already.
Yeah. So what did you learn about the church in Indonesia?
I think what one of the biggest things that we learned about the church in Indonesia is that, the coolest thing for me at least was like they're people, you're on the other side of the world, but they still have wants, they still have desires, they still have family, they still will laugh and joke with you. We got to break bread with them and share. They don't necessarily have, some of them don't have church buildings, right? They'll just meet out in the park. And that's honestly another way for them to have gospel opportunities, right? Because people can hear, they're singing worship songs and they're sharing the word. And so the nice part about Indonesia is that it's not a culture that is super big on persecution. They're about unity and diversity. So within Jakarta, you've got the biggest mosque and the biggest Catholic church right across the street from one another. And so it's really cool that they're able to share so openly and so freely. It's just getting the people to, it's just sowing those seeds that the Lord can open eyes.
Absolutely. So you said you spent a lot of your time obviously sharing the gospel. Tell us about that. Like, how did that work? You just saw people on the street. Let me go talk to that guy over there. He looks like he wants somebody to talk to, and obviously you don't speak the language. So just walk us through what those gospel conversations look like, and not only what they look like, but how are they received?
Yeah, it literally is like that, and it can be intimidating at first. And one of the things.
So what I would do if it was me, I'd like the big guys I would stay away from.
Oh, absolutely.
Like the 6'4" guy, I'll get that guy that's my size, a little shorter. That's what I'll go share with.
Right. One of the things that Adam says
is there an 8-year-old somewhere? Let me go find an 8-year-old.
That would be great.
I think when you know, okay, like I'm secure in the gospel and I'm called to share, I can't convert anyone. That only God can do that. And it really did look like in Indonesia, just walking up to just a random person in the park and starting that conversation. And
but you had translators, or you had Adam. So Adam was your translator,
right? So we had translators, and I mean, even that just brings another element to it, which is a little bit more difficult. Yeah. But I mean, they believe that Jesus is a prophet. They don't believe him to be the Son of God or Jesus is Lord. So, and then even for some of them, like I talked to one guy and he was like, honestly, I do believe what you're saying, but I can't do it because of my family, and he would really lose everything. But I mean, we all know around this table that, I mean, you lose everything not following Jesus. Yeah. So I think that's just how they grew up, just in a Muslim family. And so that is just the reality.
Yeah. What you think, Andy, about those gospel conversations?
Yeah, I think that there was a mixed ways that people would receive those gospel conversations, and it's kind of fun, right? Because like you know the plan. Like Josh and I and Logan, we all had a plan going in, so you can be a little nervous, right? But at the end of the day, those people don't know that you have a plan to share the gospel with them, right? They just think you're talking about religion. And so getting into those conversations is super easy. It's such a big part of their life, right? If you go down the street, it's almost like in America, you see a church on every corner. If you go to Indonesia, you see a mosque on every corner, and they're beautifully ornate because that's one of the tenets of Islam is to give to the mosques. And so, I mean, these people in abject poverty, and they've got mosques that are glittering and shiny and huge. That's another conversation. But the gospel conversations, like Josh was saying, they'd be received differently. Sometimes the person would just flat out tell them, we don't believe that Jesus is Lord. Sometimes they had no idea who Jesus was, and they wanted to talk a little bit more about him and have some more explanation, like those 3 guys on the beach that we were talking about. And then I think one of the most heartbreaking is the 2 guys that we talked with over coffee on Saturday, where they believed everything that we said, but at the end of the day, they were just like, can't do it. The cost is too high. And it's like, and for us, that's so weird.
Yeah. Well, how did you leave that conversation when they said the cost was too high? What do you do with that?
Yeah. For us, we continued to try to share, right, to point to the fact that like the cost is too high here, right? You may keep everything for 60 years, but for an eternity away from the God who created you. And we tried to share that with different ways, but at the end of the day, all we can do is sow seeds, right? And we can only share. And I left them with I forget what exactly specifically I said, but I told them, I was like, we just. Either the Quran or the Bible is true. I was like, we can talk about this day to day. We can be respectful, right? But at the end of the day, one of these has to be true. And I just pray that you would just consider, if you believe Christianity to be true, you believe what we've just said you to believe, really, really pray about that. Pray to the Lord to open your eyes to see what truth is. Yeah. But it is so hard to leave that conversation because, I mean, your heart breaks. Yeah. I mean, you met with these people, you're sharing coffee, you're sharing their interests and really getting to know them. And it's sad to hear that, they believe what you say, but they just can't.
Yeah. So did Adam give you any pointers on how to share the gospel in Indonesia? Kind of what were his pointers to you guys as you were preparing to have these conversations?
Right. So he had a little bit of a different model than we might use over here.
He used the 3 circles.
Right. So, so like over here, I mean, we want to kind of start chronologically throughout the Bible, go with creation, then fall, redemption, and then restoration. Whereas like you're sharing with them initially, you're just asking like straight up, hey, are you a Muslim? Are you a Hindu? Are you a Christian? And then they'll kind of respond. And then you say, we all want to go to heaven. We all want our sins to be forgiven. Do you believe like your sins have been forgiven? And 99% of the time they're like, well, I think so, but they can't say for sure. And then that leads you into be like, well, at least for me, I do know that my sins are forgiven, and I know that to be true. And then you start going and sharing. But what Adam said to go ahead and do is like start with the life of Jesus, and then from there going into creation and really emphasizing where, okay, Adam and Eve, they ate of this one fruit, they disobeyed God. And it was just one sin. They didn't murder anyone. They didn't steal anything. They just ate of this apple. And this one sin separated them from God. And then showing from that, how after Adam and Eve, they went to go hide, and then God confronted them and then gave them new clothes. It showed, hey, there had to be a sacrifice for sins. And you see that was God's plan from the beginning, that there has to be a sacrifice. And then, of course, then you start getting into, again, pointing back to the life and then death and resurrection, how Jesus, like, he's the only true sacrifice that we can have in order to cover sin. So it's a little different model, but it's the same gospel. This gospel is always true.
Yeah. So Logan, this morning in our worship service, he talked about the unreached people group that you got to interact with us a little bit. Tell us about that. Give us some context on that unreached. I know Logan talked about that this morning, but people listening, some of them might not have been here this morning or go to a different church. So tell us about that unreached people group you had an opportunity to be around.
Yeah, so Logan might have a little bit more information, but we were just driving up to a mountain, and we got up to the top of the mountain, and it was just a majority Hindu population, and a lot of those people, in fact, most of those people, they're not Christian. So they never heard the gospel, don't even have access to the gospel. I think we take that for granted, just where we live, that we can actually hear if we want to, where they don't even have a chance. And when you're walking through that city or town, whatever you want to call it, you really do just feel the lostness. And it's not something you can really just describe. It's just like, wow, like this is just how it is. Yeah. And you need people to go and share. Yeah.
Listen on that. You told us the name of the group. Tell us again.
Yeah, so it's called the Tungar People Group. They, like Josh said, they live on a mountain, just really in the middle of all these Muslims. There's this one mountain, and there's about 100,000 Hindu people there. They're all in the same people group, that Tungar People Group, and they've just been there for a really, really long time. And if you have any exposure to Hinduism, it's a good bit different than
it's very Islam. Complex.
There's a multitude of different gods. Hindu people often have no problem with liking Jesus. They just want to add him to the shelf of gods they already have. And there's a lot of animism involved. So like dealing with spirits and all these things. The people on the mountain he was telling us, like, they're scared to go outside at night because they literally feel like a spiritual darkness around them. And so we met with a believer in his family. He's from the Tungar People Group. He's been following Jesus for a long time, and he was one of the ones that went through to help translate the New Testament. So Wycliffe Bible Translators was working with them, and they just got the New Testament in their language 3 months ago. Now, there's really no church up there. There's just a handful of believers in this vast people group of 100,000 people. Yeah. And he truly understands the need to go and share the gospel, the need to make disciples. And so that's what he's doing. And like Adam and some of the other teammates there are partnering with him to try to go up there and share. But it's like that mountain, there's just a stronghold, darkness on it.
That's wild.
And it's so funny. The guy we were meeting with, so they don't have the Old Testament in their language. The guy from Wycliffe has since left, and he's just kind of by himself now. He is by himself, just verse by verse, translating through the Psalms right now. So he'll take a verse from, like, let's say we do Psalm 1:1. He would take it on a recorder and play it for people in Indonesian. And he would take it around to like 50 to 100 different people. And he'd let them listen to it. He'd say, hey, how would you translate that in your native language? And he'd get it from all these people.
Oh, wow.
And then he'd go back and do his best to compile that to make a verse.
Wow.
He's doing that with every single verse in the Psalm.
Wow.
Now,
God bless him.
And they're working to help get him some resources to make this a little bit more expedited, because he won't get very far before the end of his life. But that's how dedicated he is to making sure that these people have the Bible in their language. And you think about it, that's just something we take so for granted.
It is.
We have hundreds of different translations in English, and probably all of us have at least 10 to 15 Bibles in our homes. And, he's just really dedicated to this. So it was just being on the mountain was a different experience from where we're in the city. The culture up there is different. The weather up there is different. I mean, it's, you're going 10,000 feet just straight up. Just a really interesting, and they're just on that mountain. That's where they live, and they never really come off the mountain. They don't really have a need to. They might send their kids to the universities in Malong, But so certainly if you're listening to this, you can go on joshuaproject.com or get the Joshua Project app. You can find that people group and you can pray for them.
Yeah.
And I would just encourage you to do that. I mean, it's people we got to interact with, we got to talk with, and it's just people that need to hear the gospel.
Yeah.
They need more workers going. They need more support. And so it's just really incredible. You know, we talk about unreached people groups all the time, and you actually experience an unreached people group. It's different.
Yeah, you mentioned Wycliffe Bible Translators. That's a great organization. That's their mission. Their mission is to translate Bibles into the language of indigenous people all over the world. And Stacy and I, we financially supported Wycliffe for years because we just believe in their mission and what they're doing. I've been to a couple of their banquets. They used to do banquets quite a bit where they would tell you more about their ministry, but it's really a neat organization. So if you're interested in that, I would Google Wycliffe Bible Translators and see what they're about, because they really are just a great organization trying to get the Word of God into the language of people that don't have the Bible in their language. So a couple more questions. We haven't talked about this yet, but we need to, because everybody wants to know. This is one of those questions everybody wants to know when you go on a trip like this. What about the food? What was the weirdest thing you ate?
Oh man, I don't know about the weirdest thing. Chicken soto is pretty good, I thought.
Yeah, you can't get that
if it has the word chicken. It has to be like tarantula soto.
There wasn't anything super like off the wall that we ate. It was just incredible, like how fresh everything was. Like we
so
had,
fresh you got sick.
Right, you're right, exactly. We had I'm pretty sure it was the soto, which is basically chicken soup, but they had killed the chicken the day before, and so it was crazy. But I think the food was incredible, right? You know, even the street vendors. Oh my goodness, the street vendors were so incredible. Like, I'm sure that oil has never been changed once, but man, those fried tempura was so amazing. I think the best thing we had was the red snapper, right?
Nice.
We were
that is nice.
In the middle of the absolutely nowhere on the Indian Ocean, visiting with a former pastor and his family and supporting their business there. And we had like fresh red snapper and calamari and rice and all kinds of fresh vegetables. $20. Man, $20. I'm going. Right. It was absolutely incredible, and that's how it was the whole trip. Everything was just incredibly cheap and so delicious.
You did okay with the food, Joshua? You liked it?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I wasn't a huge fan of the food compared to here. It's like for breakfast they have rice. Like if they don't have rice, they don't eat. That's what they tell you.
That's right.
So that was definitely different.
Yeah. That's
They've
always
got
interesting.
Lots. You can get just about any fruit that you want to over there.
Yeah.
So
more tropical climate when they're on the coast.
Except for apples. But Adam, it's interesting. So Java, the island we're on, it's a volcanic island. There's active volcanoes on the island. But for whatever the reason is, they have like one of the deepest levels of topsoil on the entire planet.
Good coffee.
They can grow like anything.
Yeah.
They plant, you should see like on the sides of the mountains, there will be nothing but just stuff growing on the sides of these mountains. They can grow absolutely just about anything they want to.
But the coffee is really good over there, right? Did you have
coffee? The coffee is, yes. And it's interesting culturally. So they export a lot of coffee. They've just started actually drinking coffee themselves, like really good coffee recently. Yeah. Everything they used to drink was just like the ground powder stuff. But yeah, very, very odd. But they grow incredible coffee. The food. I enjoyed the food, except for whatever made us sick. But I don't know what that was.
I hear you.
It was good.
So let me ask a couple more questions. One, so you guys went already sensing the call of God on your life to give your lives to serving in missions internationally. You guys both been wrestling with that and feel like that's the direction you're going to go with your lives. How did this trip help you in understanding that calling that God has on your life?
Yeah, so for me and Andy, that's what we are looking at long term. And I think you just come back just feeling that weight, just feeling that burden, just knowing that there is people just from where they were born that they won't even hear the gospel and they don't even have a chance to even know who Jesus is, to have that relationship and to be able to go to heaven. So when you walk through that unreached people group, it's different from just hearing about it. And when you experience it, you feel more of that weight and you just know, someone has to go. So I think for me, it just more so confirmed that, and just my desire to go, but also my desire just to share with people that are in my community right now. Good. And everybody can do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Andy? How did this trip help you in your calling?
I think I'd echo a lot of the same sentiments that Josh just said. What was really cool about this trip, was being able to see those really big highs of sharing the gospel with people who had never heard it, and also the lows of getting sick, and just and it was great to see both of those, and to realize that there's a cost, but that cost is so worth it, because there's 3.4, 3.6, however many billion people who've never heard the gospel before. And as a young single guy, right, it's not even a question of why am I going? It's a question of why wouldn't I go, right? And the same as Josh, right? I feel that need to just share with everybody around me, because there are lost people all around us, and people who've never heard the gospel. But here, at least they have a chance. There's a church in every street corner. It's free on the internet. There are some countries that people have no chance of hearing the gospel unless someone goes. And so I think it definitely affirmed that calling. I think it made it a little more real, right? Not just a fanciful thing in my imagination, but a real concrete, this is what it can cost, and this is why it's worth it.
Yeah, good stuff. Yeah, you guys had a unique experience, right? 3 guys going on a trip, and kind of all kinds of crazy places you went, just as 3 guys. I know Adam went with you, but usually the teams I've led have been a little bit larger than 3 guys, right? And so just a little bit different. So you guys have a very unique experience. But with that unique experience, there are people who are listening to this podcast who have never had the opportunity to go on an international mission trip, and maybe there's going to be an opportunity coming up. I know we're going to look to go back to Indonesia. We've got an opportunity to go to Japan in August of 2023, which we're going to start talking about as a church family. What year is this? We're in 2022 now, right?
Yes.
I can't keep up with the years.
You are right, my friend.
Perhaps when you get old, you just can't keep up with the years. You know what I'm talking about, don't you?
Yeah.
But in 2023, we're going to have an opportunity to go to Japan. So we have some really cool opportunities coming up here in our own faith family to send our church out on mission. So for that person who's never been on an international mission trip and is thinking, maybe I'll give it a try, I don't know. How would you guys encourage that person who might be wrestling with that decision of whether he or she should take that step of faith and go on that short-term international mission trip?
Yeah, so I think that the first thing I would say, obviously, is if you have that chance, absolutely go, right? Yeah. There's never going to be a moment where you're going to feel so in line with what God is calling you to do, regardless of where it is, when you've just dedicated an entire week, 10 days, 2 weeks to just sharing the gospel, right? I remember I hopped on my plane, the first plane ride I'd ever taken, and God gave me the opportunity to share the gospel right there in America. And I was like, wow, when you do as the Lord calls, He's so faithful to answer and just bountifully provide. Yeah. And just getting outside of your culture and seeing that there's such a vast world out there of different peoples who all need Jesus, right? Yeah. It's such a unique thing, and it's so cool to almost see Revelation 7:9 happening, right? Where every people, every language, every tribe is going to be gathered before the throne of God, just praising Him.
That's good. That's good. What about you, Josh?
Yeah, I don't think I've heard anyone come back from a mission trip and was like, that was
the worst thing I ever did in my life, right?
Right. No one says it was a waste of time. You always hear, this was a life-changing experience for me, just to be able to see different culture, just a different area of the world. And I think you really do come back again with just that burden to share. So if you have the opportunity, just go. Yeah, I mean, nothing else you can really say.
Let me ask you a question, Logan. We'll start in our time together. It wasn't long ago that you were where they are, right? You're still relatively young. You're getting older, but you're still relatively young. But it wasn't that long ago that you were where they are. And now for you, the table's kind of turned just a bit, right? You're not the young guy going on a trip. You're the old guy mentoring and leading young guys in how to walk in the mission of God. What was it like for you to be on this trip and kind of being that mentor and that coach to these guys?
It was a ton of fun for me, again. And I mean, I don't know personally what God has for my life down the road. Heather and I are open to anything. We are totally content with where we are right now. Feel like we are where God wants us to be, but those doors may open up down the road. it is so refreshing for me to get out of my own context with guys that I was already getting to know anyway, and just having, like Andy said, having 10 days where I'm not on my phone all the time, and we just get to sit down and share the gospel and process through scripture together and have gospel conversations. And really it's just a joy, you know, like my job is to equip the saints for the work of the ministry. And doing short-term missions is part of that.
Yeah, absolutely.
For God's calling people out to go to the nations, and whatever I can do to be faithful to help foster that, I want to do that. And I know that if I was not doing that, I would be unfaithful to my current role.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it is just so fun. It's encouraging. I come back refreshed. Now, I didn't feel refreshed the first week after we got back. But come back spiritually refreshed. And like Josh said, Josh and Andy both said, it compels me to remember, hey, the mission is not just being in another country. The mission is where God has me right now. So in my neighborhood, with my circle of influence, with my friends, with my family members, that's where the mission is right now.
Yeah.
Now, that doesn't negate me from thinking about and praying for and giving and going to the nations. We want to continue to do that. But I just remember, man, one of the most encouraging things for me, and I know for Adam, like we got to talk about this a lot, he loves having short-term teams out.
Yeah.
It's work for him to do that.
Absolutely.
Like he's away from his family
their schedule.
for a week.
Yeah.
He's planning schedules. He's doing all this. But it's so incredibly refreshing for him and his family just to have people come encourage them.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so if there's nothing else, if there's no other reason that you want to go right now other than, hey, I just want to go encourage our missionaries, that's a worthy thing to go and do.
Absolutely.
And good. I promise that if and when you're there, your eyes will be open to the mission of God. And so some of my favorite times on the trip were just, man, Adam and I just talking, and just talking about the gospel, talking about parenting, talking about marriage, talking about ecclesiology and what goes on in the church in Indonesia, and just thinking through theological things together. All of that, the entire experience is refreshing for me. And so I would just encourage anybody, it doesn't matter if you're in high school, if you're in college, if you're near retirement, you can go.
Yeah.
And you don't know what God's going to do. You don't know how God's going to use you. And so just be open-handed. We just want to be open-handed with our time, our money, our resources, and our lives ultimately, to see what God may do and how he may use us in that.
That's good. That's good. That's good, Pops.
Yeah, Pastor, it's been great. Josh and Andy and Logan. There you go. That's
I work with you, Trey.
I was looking over there anyway. Appreciate you guys coming and sharing. Appreciate you guys going too. That's huge, and it is a blessing to know that y'all have gone and done the work of God, and it's just touches our hearts. And we'll be praying for you guys in the future. Looking forward to what God's going to do. Pastor, why don't you close us out and get us ready for next week?
Like Trey already said, thank you guys for taking the time to share with us. This is really good and really encouraging. And I hope if you're listening today, this has been encouraging to you and helpful for you. And if it has been encouraging and helpful, go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can have new content delivered to your device every single week. Leave us a 5-star review. It helps us get word out about the podcast. And as always, we hope today's episode has helped you connect faith to life.